So bear with us. It should have all the same information. I glanced through it a couple of times this weekend, and I think it does a really good job with also showcasing where we are. We are in Nashville, Tennessee, which we will make sure to talk about this afternoon for you all. And from there, I'll go ahead and get started. If you have not visited Vanderbilt at all, I'm just so curious, how many of you have had a chance to see on campus? Okay, let's scroll through here. Perfect. That gives me a good get my bearings in terms of how to describe us. So we are in the heart of the city. And one of the things that we as admissions staff members wanted to go through and start our presentations with this morning was really just recognizing where we are in terms of the climate of the country, both in terms of our the pandemic that we are all dealing with, but also some of the moments of unrest that we've seen in the country as well. And so we've devised this statement to let students know what's important to us, how we are going to be really retooling, if you will, our holistic admissions process to help students continue to advocate for themselves, help our counselors continue advocating for them in this admissions process. And so we'll make sure to dive into a lot of these different things as well as we go along today. So if you're not as familiar with Vanderbilt, I think it's important to start off with the fact that we are medium-sized in a lot of different ways. Our campus itself is situated in the Midtown neighborhood of Nashville. We are just 2 miles away from downtown, and it's a 330-acre campus that encompasses a lot of our academic buildings, actually all of our academic buildings, all of our sporting facilities. So if you're a huge sports fan, know that you have ready access to those. All of our residence halls, the majority of our students live on campus all 4 years. So it's very important to the model of who Vanderbilt is and how we can fit your experience during your undergraduate years. We also have a medium-sized student body. And I think it's important to note that, yes, you're going to get to know your peers, your classmates, your student organization members incredibly well, but you're also going to have continuously new opportunities to meet new peers, to get to know different facets of their backgrounds, of their experiences, and how that adds to the campus dynamic, both in the classroom, but also during the social aspects of undergraduate experience. Our 4 undergraduate schools and 6 graduate and professional schools make up the academic campus. It's easy to note that there's no necessary boundaries between the buildings themselves, and there's no boundaries between the academic offerings that they have. Case in point, we have a business minor that's taught by our own graduate school of management faculty members, but it's available to our undergraduate students to take the business minor and to apply that to their different interests in business, in entrepreneurship, and many other different ways. The other thing that's also important to note, I got this question during my last high school visit in the last hour, was this idea that in a normal year, we have a very active campus. And I think it's important to note, even this year, our student organizations are doing so many good things to engage our peers, to engage our classmates in just a little bit of a different way. So these student organizations encapsulate fine arts, political groups, cultural affinity groups, pre-professional societies, and so much more. So there are different ways for students to get involved in the campus, to have that dynamic experience outside of their classroom time. We also have a very diverse student population. We usually use a campus map to facilitate this conversation, but just picture all 50 states are readily represented on our campus. Some of our smaller states include, of course, places like South Dakota, Wyoming. Hawaii, though, actually has about 18 to 20 students in a given year represented in our student population. Tennessee, yes, is our most populous state, but it's only 9% of our students coming from Tennessee. So the majority of our students are coming from California, New York, Florida, Illinois, and we also have another 9% of students that are coming from international locations. So we encourage students to think about that national and international perspective that they want to have in their campus community, because that's something that Vanderbilt can readily offer. And as you can see here, 42% of our students are coming from underrepresented backgrounds. The other fun fact is the 3-to-1 squirrel to student ratio, really just highlighting the fact that we are a National Arboretum on our campus, a lot of green space, a lot of beautiful trees. That's kind of what I'm missing the most right now from going to campus for my office, is the magnolia trees. Right now they've been blooming, they're beautifully smelling flowers and beautiful looking flowers, only for a short period of time. So I'm gonna be missing that this year, but any other given year, our students, our faculty and staff would be able to use those green open spaces for those larger campus convocations and campus-wide events. All right, so undergraduate schools wise, out of curiosity, and we can put this in the chat if that makes it easier for folks, what kinds of academic things are you all thinking about? Are you certainly interested in trying to explore during your college experience? Are you interested in pre-med, pre-law, pre-business? That's usually one of my engaging questions during my in-person visits, but we're gonna adapt it a little bit.
Yeah, that's what makes some of the remote visits a little more challenging, Maria. You can't gauge the students in the room, but if students have interests in anything in particular, or any parents that are on the line, if you want to put in there in the chat what you'd like to hear about, that would be great.
Wonderful. We have pre-med, scientific research, health sciences, absolutely biology and chemistry. Those are some of the more popular majors we get asked about. Oh, pre-law, great, excellent. We can talk about some options there. Mathematics, finance, accounting, wonderful. Okay, gives me a good direction to go into. So our 4 undergraduate schools, I mentioned really quickly that there's no boundaries between them. So students can take classes and are encouraged to take classes across the 4 undergraduate schools. This includes a couple of different unique options. Our College of Arts and Science and our School of Engineering actually don't admit by major. So we do have students that are interested in particular subjects that they'll list on their application. Most will list undecided, and that's okay as well, because they are given time to explore in freshman seminars, in their liberal arts core classes, different subject areas, and really fall in love with certain majors that they have in mind. School of Engineering does this really interestingly. They have a freshman seminar that dives into 3 fields of engineering over the course of a semester. Each field, you actually have a tangible project that's due at the end of your 4 weeks with that subject area. And at the end of freshman year is when you would work with your freshman advisor to declare your field of engineering. So it gives you that space to be able to explore the resources, the faculty members, the potential career outcomes that you would like to see from an engineering program. College of Arts and Science, end of sophomore year is going to be the target date when students will likely declare their majors, if not before then. We have some students that, again, readily know they want to go into pre-medicine, and they might be interested in things like neuroscience or medicine, health, and society, which is another interesting major on our campus. That feeds into the pre-med program. But our pre-med students can also come from the Blair School of Music. They can come from our human development programs in the Peabody College. So you're not capped to just being a pre-med student, to just being a pre-law student in the College of Arts and Science. I think that's important to note. Our engineering program is also structured a bit differently. It does not have a co-op built into the program. We do still want to give our students application-based opportunities, research, internships, and they can readily do that both during the academic year, but they're going to take classes on top of that. Summer especially is geared towards those hands-on opportunities, both on our campus as well as nationwide, and sometimes in international locations. The School of Engineering has also helped us, along with the Peabody College in one of those majors, help us design and think about how all students can readily take advantage of some of the more immersive activities that we have available. So I'll make sure to touch on that in just a little bit here. The Blair School of Music, something important to note is that it's our only undergraduate school, so it does have only the ensemble filled with our undergraduate students. That gives our students opportunities to vie for those competitive positions, first chair, second chair, and things of that nature within their various ensembles. And it's also open to other students. So students can take classes, they can double major in music, they can minor in music. and be able to take advantage of the fact that we have amazingly talented faculty members in a lot of different studios. And then Peabody College of Education and Human Development, I always leave this one for last for a couple of different reasons. This is where I gained my master's degree from, and it's also home to some of our more unique programs, including Human and Organizational Development, HOD. It's one of the most popular majors for a couple of reasons. It's got an internship that's structured into the senior year, second semester. So you're at the job site for 4 days out of the week. And that fifth day out of the week, you're actually meeting with your cohort in that city, talking about the organization issues that you're noticing within your company, and also how to help diagnose those issues and solve them and provide patches, if you will, for those organizations by the time your semester internship wraps up. Many times over, we're seeing students gain employment opportunities with those companies that they work with. Organizational effectiveness, leadership development, community development, those are just some of the tracks that we offer within the HOD program. It's also got our teaching and learning component, and that's one of the things that people don't necessarily think about, is going into the education sphere, working within the classrooms. But that's one of the things that Vanderbilt does incredibly well. Our School of Education is usually in the top 5 in the country. And while it's a graduate school ranking, it really feeds into the opportunities for our undergraduate students. I mentioned that you apply into specific majors. You are put into a classroom first semester freshman year to really understand how a classroom dynamic works, but also, again, how to make that a better experience for you as a teacher, as well as the teachers that are mentoring you along the way. All right. So we can't talk about the academic experience without really highlighting our biggest asset within education, and that is our faculty members. So our faculty members make themselves readily available to their students, whether it's serving as undergraduate faculty advisors, they are also undergraduate mentors within the research sphere. And when we talk about research, I do want to highlight that research is across the spectrum. We have 3 national centers for education research on our campus. We have the Curb Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. We have the John Siegenthaler Freedom Forum Center on our campus for my public policy studies, as well as my students interested in First Amendment rights. So great opportunities even beyond the STEM fields. The Vanderbilt University Medical School also offers a lot of different research opportunities for my budding pre-med students. So that's situated right on the campus, right in the heart, actually, if you think about the physical landscape of the campus itself. So it's readily available for students as they're navigating their classwork to then reserve their afternoons for their labs that they have within that research sphere. 7-to-1 student to faculty ratio, and yes, we want to make sure that our faculty members are readily available. So we work with them to balance out their schedule to make sure that they can certainly teach the undergraduate students readily, but also make sure that they're still producing incredible research opportunities for both themselves as well as the students that they're mentoring. We also love our graduate students, but we do keep them in a supportive role as teaching assistants for the full-time faculty members. So you are learning from the experts in their given fields. I mentioned very quickly some of our immersive programs, like our senior design program within engineering, where you work within teams of senior students on a given project that's been proposed by a sponsoring organization outside of Vanderbilt. Likewise, our human and organizational development major and their senior capstone experience with the internship, these have really helped us understand and learn how to scale that to all of our undergraduate students participating in an immersive activity during their time with us. And it really is a scaled project throughout the 4 years. So students, their very first semester, get introduced to some of the activities, some of the opportunities that we offer to students on the Vanderbilt campus. What are the resources? What are the faculty members? What projects have been successful in the past? Sophomore year is when they start to design their particular immersive Vanderbilt project. And that includes lining up some of the resources that you would need. Maybe it's applying for different grants or stipends to help you on your way to navigating that experience during your upperclassmen years. Their junior and their senior year is actually when they put that plan into place. Maybe it's research labs, maybe it is a study abroad experience, but it's then kind of going beyond the general experience that you'd be able to find at many other campuses. And it's bringing that knowledge back into the larger Vanderbilt sphere, presenting at conferences, presenting it to the larger Vanderbilt community through a lecture series. It is showcasing your new products and your new ideas to the larger Vanderbilt community, helping you provide the paperwork and the submission opportunities for patents and things of that nature. Those are just some of the activities that go into the Immersion Vanderbilt program that really helps distinguish what makes a Vanderbilt student more marketable to graduate schools, to employment opportunities, and things of that nature. So I have to mention our best asset, single best asset, I would probably say, is being in that backdrop of Nashville. Vanderbilt was founded in 1873, miles away from what was Nashville at the time. And it's really grown up around us, where we are now in the Midtown neighborhood of Nashville, just 2 miles away from the downtown. And I think this picture does an amazing job with showcasing just how close we are to those assets within our larger downtown area. Had a wonderful conversation the other day with a public policy studies interested student about taking advantage of the fact that we're a state capital and our state legislature offers a number of internship opportunities during the spring and the summer months for our students interested in that facet. We also are home to a number of entertainment opportunities. So my students interested in music, we are more than just country music. We are Music City USA after all. So we do encourage students to take advantage of discounted or free shows that are in the local area, really getting to know some of the local artists that we want to help foster. But also, we also take advantage of the fact that Nashville is now included on so many headlining tours. Again, we're expecting this to come to fruition within the next couple of months as some of these pandemic numbers really start to level off. So you can start to see this probably in those next few months as we become, again, more of that entertainment industry city again. We also encourage our students to take advantage of a lot of different things within Nashville through some of the offerings on our campus. That includes our Taste of Nashville meal plan program, where your meal plan points can count for off-campus locations. Chili's, I know, is the old-time favorite, but we also have some great locally owned restaurants on that program. We also have free transportation through the Metro transit system for our students to take advantage of. So if you don't want to bring your car to campus, first-year students, I should mention, are not able to bring their cars to campus, but even our upperclassmen students don't feel the need to have their car on campus because of that transit partnership that we have available to our students. It's also no surprise that we're the #6 city for young professionals, with many of those young professionals being Vanderbilt graduates afterwards. Okay, so as we start to transition into our admissions policies and admissions discussions, some key things that I would love for you to take away from this mission statement. It's very important to us that you know we use a holistic admissions process, especially given this year and all the different changes that are occurring in that admissions realm. We also have, however, a highly selective admissions process, but also a very transparent process. So how does that factor into your part of the application, as well as my role as an admissions officer for students? We use 3 application platforms: the QuestBridge application, the Common application, and the Coalition application. But all 3 of those platforms really highlight these various requirements that Vanderbilt's going to request on those application documents. Academic achievement by far is going to be still the most important thing that we receive and that we review. Over the course of 4 years of high school, we want to understand a student's ability to navigate the rigor, but also their performance within that rigor. That can be dual enrollment classes, post-secondary classes. It can certainly be online classes, especially given this particular new normal that we're in. But it can also be advanced placement, international baccalaureate, honors, advanced classes. And it's always looked at within the context of your given high school or multiple high schools if you're coming from multiple educational settings. We also have become test optional for this academic year. That is to address the limitation of testing centers and testing dates for our seniors. So how is this working at Vanderbilt this year? We've always been test optional when it comes to standardized subject tests. So SAT 2 subject tests, advanced placement, and international baccalaureate scores. We leave it up to the student if they would like to share that information for the academic part of the review. For this year, we have extended that to SAT and ACT. If you've taken the exams, if you've already submitted the exams, you are more than welcome to have this considered in the admissions process. But if you have not yet had the exam, let's say you were scheduled, but the testing center was canceled or things of that nature, or even if you did submit the standardized test scores already, but would ultimately not like to have them considered in the application review, that's okay too. You can actually let us know that I would like to be considered as a test optional student, and we will redact all of that information that we have already received from your application review process. So if you need further clarification on that, feel free to let me know. I'm more than happy to address that in our Q&A afterwards. Letters of recommendation, we ask for 3, 1 from your school-based counselor, 2 from your academic teachers. These can be from math, foreign language, English, natural sciences, social studies, as well as we're happy to receive supplemental recommendations. So these can come from your independent educational consultants that you work with. They can come from coaches, from elective teachers, folks that maybe know you a little bit better, especially if you are only in the online environment and are really concerned about having that relationship with your teacher. You can certainly look to those supplemental recommendations to help us understand you as a person, as a classmate. The personal essay common application makes this really easy. There's 6 different prompts, including a topic of your own choice. And it's really just assessing your writing ability as well as that personal story. What do you want your admissions counselor to know about you in the process? And then lastly, but certainly not least, extracurricular activities, leadership, and engagement. How have you chosen to engage your community? It can be a title position, but it doesn't always have to be. We leave that, again, completely up to the student and their personal circumstances, especially given this year. We know the resume is going to be looking a little bit different than maybe if you had applied 1 or 2 years ago. And this, I think it's important to know also, this extends to our current juniors, our current sophomores. We know that these resumes are going to look different for the next few years. Transcripts are going to look different for the next few years as we kind of navigate the pandemic and the ramifications from it. So this slide does not last. I forgot to change the timing on it, so I apologize for that. But I can backtrack to it if needed. Opportunity Vanderbilt is our need-based financial aid program, and we make 3 guarantees to our families through it. We meet 100% of the family's demonstrated financial need. We meet that need with no loans, and we also have a need-blind admissions process for our U.S. citizens and our eligible non-citizens. So what all this means? We cost a pretty penny, and we recognize that. It's around $78,000 total cost of attendance. Your expected family contribution, which is calculated from the FAFSA as well as the CSS profile, that information will generate the expected family contribution, and that's what we subtract from our total cost of attendance. The leftover amount is what we consider your family's demonstrated financial need, and that's what Vanderbilt meets 100% of. For my international and undocumented students, while we do have to be need aware for your application, once we decide to admit a student with that citizenship category, we will still meet 100% of your demonstrated financial need and still meet that with no loans. So know that you are still looped into the Opportunity Vanderbilt program. The other things that, unfortunately, they don't mention it on this, oh, I apologize, on the wrong, sorry, is our merit scholarships. I don't believe they mentioned it on this particular slide, but something important to note is that Vanderbilt still awards merit-based scholarships, roughly 250 of those a year, and they are full tuition for all 4 years, so they are renewable, and they do provide a $5,000 one-time summer stipend that can go towards one of your immersive projects. Maybe it's a study abroad activity, maybe it's a research opportunity that you have to pay for, and things of that nature. So with that, I do have a video, but I also want to be cautious of my time as well. I think I'm at time, if not a little bit over, to address any questions that folks have.
Maria, before we go to the student questions, I have a couple that I'm just going to put out because maybe these are things that the families and students may not think about asking, but I think are important to know. So with those merit scholarships, is that a separate application? And then a subsequent question is, in lieu of test scores, are students able to still be considered for those if they go test optional?
Absolutely, yes. So our test optional policy is also going to extend to our merit scholarship consideration. And yes, they will require a separate application. Faculty members will gain access to the admissions application as well as the scholarship applications for their particular scholarships. Now, our faculty members are going to go through a thorough retraining this year to make sure that all of our students are on a level playing field, regardless if they chose to submit their test scores or not. So test scores will likely be redacted from that process. Those are the trends that we're seeing in some of our conversations with the faculty members already.
Okay, thank you. And then another question in terms of the evaluation process, does Vanderbilt do admission interviews? That's a question we get sometimes.
That is an excellent question. I don't have a firm answer on this just yet.
Okay.
So normally, in the normal years, we will do an alumni interview in the student's hometown. And these have always been seen as perfectly optional. Students have the option to set up a personal interview. It will then be added to their application information, almost like a third-party recommendation letter, if you will. We are still navigating what this means in a virtual environment. How can we train our volunteer alumni interviewers to navigate both the technology, but also for the protection of students, how would that work with one staff member possibly observing the interview and things of that nature. So we're still in conversations about that, and we will certainly notify applicants as that becomes available.
Okay, and then my final question before we open it up to others, what about demonstrated interest? Does it matter how many touch points they have or how frequently they're reaching out? Do you guys track that?
Sure thing. We do not track demonstrated interest. Rather, we use it as a way to say, oh, this event worked well. We should host it again. Or that event did not work well. We don't need to host that again. What's important here is using the tools at your fingertips now to be able to research our campus, to be able to talk with our faculty members, talk with our students. So it looks a little bit different, but we've now incorporated student panels into our virtual VU offerings. Those are some of the webinars and sessions that we have available for students to learn more about us. We have faculty spotlights. So there are certainly different ways to touch base with us. And we want to make sure that students have the information, but we're not necessarily tracking what did they click or how often did they click things or how many questions did they ask of their admission staff member, those sorts of things.
That's very helpful because it's always different, for different schools in terms of how they're doing things. And I know students sometimes and families are curious about, how much should I be doing? Does it matter all that much? But sometimes I'll tell families or students, the touch points you have, if you're really interested, those are just authentic. Sometimes it just happens because you're interested. And so you are watching the videos online and you are reading the emails that are coming through and you are meeting with the reps and all of that. So,
Exactly.
so thank you for clarifying that. So so thank you, Maria, for this.